Hey John,
Hey!
did you find something interesting today?
Oh yes, I found my first smartphone, which is actually an iPhone 3GS from 2009.
Ooh,
And I found that it still charges and it still works. I was able to start it up and see all the apps are there. It really works. The camera is there, and apparently it has a photo of an iPhone 13 on it. So amazing. And what's also like interesting is how small it is, this iPhone. For example, this is the smallest iPhone that we have today. It's iPhone SE, and it's pretty big in comparison to this one. Pretty big iPhone SE. And then this is a more recent one, iPhone 13, and it's like much too big if you compare it to this old classic here. So there you have the comparison. Also the home screen, there's no home button anymore today, of course. We got rid of this with the iPhone SE, is the last one that has it, but the home screen with all the apps on it, let me just unlock it. It's still pretty similar on one hand, and on the other hand, the old one has more 3D effects, this so-called skeuomorphism it was called. But also the little details have changed. The clock was just the clock, and now the clock on the new one, it's actually working here. But it has the same basic functions, and yeah, the new iPhones look a little bit sleeker, but the old ones were pretty cool, and we had everything back then that I wanted to have. I could read my email, I could go on the web with this, and amazing that this is now, it's 2024, and this is now 15 years old. It's from 2009. I bought it used back then, but actually when you would have bought it new in 2009 when it came out, this would have been in euros about 700 euros, depending on how much storage it had. This had, I think, 16 gigabyte, which is not much compared to today, but still pretty good. And it came also, this one came with this docking station here. So, and I used it as an MP3 player, because the docking station could also be connected to your stereo system, and that's how I used it. So it had a 3.5 millimeter jack on there, and on the phone itself, which the iPhones don't have anymore, and a lot of phones today don't have anymore. Yeah, but what is still there is the basic layout. You have the volume buttons here. If you compare this to the more recent iPhone 13, you have the volume buttons here as well. And this just recently changed with the 15 or 16, I don't know. This switch here for silent mode was already there on this iPhone here. Still there is a switch for silent mode, and it's orange when it's silent, and it's just up when it's not. And on the other side there was no button, but you had the on and off button on top. So, and you had this plastic bag with a shiny Apple logo on it, and the big connector back then. It was a different connector, but otherwise it's pretty modern, and for most people this would be more than enough still today. Fascinating. It's still in my Wi-Fi. I don't have a SIM card in it, and then it has this different swipe actions here. It has multi-touch. When you have a photo here, like this one I have here, the only one I have here in the gallery, multi-touch is that you can pinch to zoom. That was new in these iPhones. I don't think Android did it at the time, but Android was already around at this time. Android is actually a little bit older than iOS, but it made it for most people a few years later, only because then the smartphones really took off, with the iPhone really starting it off, and then later more models from all different manufacturers came. But smartphone is actually a pretty old term. I think it goes back to the 90s, where there were the first phones that could do email, and later there were the Blackberries, and then you had your PDAs, your little personal digital assistants that could do email and a little bit of online functionality. But everything combined with a camera and a web browser and everything together, this was actually where it took off. And this is actually you can say the second generation iPhone. It's the 3GS, which is derived from the 3G. And this is and the first one was just the iPhone. Then came the 3G and this 3GS, but it has still the original format. It's still the original small size. And I like this size, and it was like a soap bar, very comfortable, and it fit in every pocket. And when you see these big things today, it's like a schnitzel, a frozen schnitzel in your pocket. It's a little bit too much actually. I would prefer smaller phones, and I hope they come back, because I don't need that much screen. But yeah, everyone is different. Let me just show if this here works. The weather doesn't work. Yahoo Weather doesn't work. And the map program was really bad on this. It had already GPS, but the Apple Maps program was really bad. Let me see if it does anything. It asked me, there's a little pin there on the map, and I can pinch, but it doesn't load a map or anything right now. But it gets the position, so GPS works. Fascinating that this still works, and it still holds a charge. Like 1 hour or so I tested that, but I of course have to keep it always now on the base station. Anyway, that's it for today, and fascinating classic old iPhone that I found. Until next time, don't forget to subscribe and like this channel, and also look at our other videos that we have. Goodbye.